Thank you, that's better. So first of all, I'd like to say my name is Geertrui, which is quite hard to pronounce. I'm not a type designer, but I'm a graphic designer in love with lettering and typography. A couple of months ago, I traveled to Melbourne, Australia, to take a type design course at the Old School New School for Design and Typography. I'm here today to talk about my experience and to explain why understanding type design can make you a better letterer. But before that, I'd like to take it a few steps back to where it all started. Back in the summer of 2014, I did an internship at a branding agency here in Antwerp, and I was asked to create a lettering logo for a client. As I already had quite an interest in lettering, I was very excited about this project. However, when I started sketching from scratch, it didn't work. I couldn't create a logo, a lettering logo. Why was it so difficult to draw these letters? It also got me triggered. I ended up customizing an existing typeface to create a final logo, but the same night I went home and I started drawing and drawing until I finished my very first lettering piece. I've been working as a freelance graphic designer for 2 years now, and I've had the chance to work on a lot of lettering-related projects. However, a little bit after I started, I noticed I got stuck in my comfort zone. When you're working for clients, there's not always enough time or not always enough budget to create new styles and new ideas. But it was mainly in my personal work that I realized I was just repeating myself over and over again. To get out of my comfort zone and to try to stand out more, I started a huge personal project called Lettering Till Christmas. Starting on January 1st, 2017, I created new numbers every day while counting the days till Christmas. As I didn't really know how much work this project would be, you can imagine that it turned out to be quite a challenge. But when I finished this project, I realized it had been a good experience. I improved my time management, learned how to screen print, and I even organized my very first exhibition back in January this year. However, I didn't reach my initial goal. I was still repeating myself and still stuck in my comfort zone. Being so short on time, there's not always enough time for a lot of experiment. I was just compensating bad letter shapes by adding lots of details such as little dots or shadow lines. I also realized that the frustration of repeating myself originated from my limited knowledge of type design. So it was time for the next step, a type design course. The type design course in Melbourne caught my attention as their main focus lies on hand lettering, brush lettering, and a lot of experiment. Not knowing what to really expect, however, I applied for the course and traveled to Melbourne in April this year. During our first week, we didn't use our computer. Starting off by brush lettering the playful Neuland, we made our way through a variety of styles, such as Roman, more condensed and extended letter shapes, the black letter, and script lettering. At first, I didn't feel very comfortable using a brush. As a letterer, I'm used to work with a pencil, which gives me good control over my letter shapes. With brush lettering, however, there is no way to fix badly shaped letter shapes unless by repainting them. In order to get your letters right, you have to know the structure of every letter that you're painting. By looking at existing typefaces and trying to reconstruct them using our brush, we got a very good understanding of the way that letters are created. We also learned all about formal script lettering. So formal script lettering has quite a different approach when it comes to creating letters when you compare it to casual or informal script lettering. Let me show you my sketching process when I create casual script lettering. I always start with very loose sketches, often using a brush pen. I use a brush pen as it makes me able to work faster. I don't always work on a grid, as I want to make sure that the letters and the words I create are very spontaneous. I improve the letters by adding a new layer and drawing them by pencil before vectorizing them. With formal script lettering, it's all about consistency, consistency, consistency. The grid is necessary to get the rhythm and the structure of your letters right. Taking this course made me realize the importance of looking at other people's work, and it made me understand once again why I got so stuck in my own techniques and my own methods. Same with flourishing. So I've always had a hard time creating well-balanced and elegant flourishes. However, turns out that flourishing is more like some sort of technique, like you would learn calligraphy. By starting off with a few basic components and adding them together, you'll create some beautiful results. By understanding and learning about this technique, you'll be able to create flourishes in a better and a faster way. We also created a more informal drawing based on our formal drawing, and I thought that this was a very good experience, as this lettering is quite different from the original lettering I used to create before taking this course. It didn't take long until we got completely submerged into the world of type. Not only by drawing nonstop, but also by learning all about the history and the theory of type. I had learned about all of this before during my study as my graphic design studies, but this time I could really apply all of that knowledge to my own work. Let me show you an example. Over here you can see a lettering I've created about 1.5 years ago, and I've paid all of my attention to adding the little details, such as the little dots. But here, it's a very small difference. You can see I adjusted the letters to make the relative weight of the horizontal and the vertical letter shapes look better. It is, as I said, a small difference, but type is all about the details. We experimented with a variety of styles through smaller assignments. We were asked to create a lettering piece for a fictional ice cream parlor. This could look like anything, but I immediately thought about my trip to San Francisco last year. I could see myself wandering through the colorful streets of San Francisco, eating an ice cream from a well-established, but at the same time, a little bit edgy ice cream shop. So I started sketching, and I created my lettering piece for my fictional ice cream parlor called San Fran. Starting from these letters, I very soon realized how hard it was to convert these letters into a typeface. Where lettering often gets more interesting by adding lots of layers and lots of details, type design is about letting go of unnecessary details. Type is lettering with rules, as Dan Milne would say. Here you can see a closer look. I wanted every letter that I created to look peculiar and distinctive. However, creating letters from A to Z is only one part of creating a typeface. I had a hard time getting all the letters to work together. As a letterer, I only have to pay attention to a certain number of letters, where here, all the letters have to fit in with each other. Where this lettering piece is working, the first version of my typeface turned out to be very unbalanced. Also, spacing turned out to be quite difficult with the very long serifs. In order to get the typeface right, I had to let go of unnecessary details. However, I was afraid that the letters would lose their distinctive characteristics. But by shortening and thickening the serifs, and by reducing all the unnecessary details, and by adjusting the spacing, the typeface started to come together. Poirot Display was born. Poirot Display is a typeface with a strong personality. I wanted to create a typeface that found its origin in the modern letter, but I still wanted to keep the very strong character. This is why I used the rounder part of the italics and put it into my typeface. This creates a quirky rhythm that is reminiscent of the iconic Belgian detective. As Poirot Display, you can hear it in the name, is a display typeface. It is best appreciated when used in large headlines. My main goal of taking this type design course was to improve my skills and my knowledge about type design, to apply this to my work as a letterer. I have no intention to become a type designer. However, my interest in type design has grown enormously. I can see my work with a different approach now, from a different perspective. I have a better understanding of why certain work is or isn't working. And I'm better aware of the way that letters are built. Since I returned to Belgium, I've been able to put a lot of information that I learned at the type design course into practice. And I'd like to show this with a small example. I was asked to create a redesign of a logo for Lafayette. Lafayette was a brewery until the 30s here in Belgium, and this was the only image they could find of the original logo design. When I usually create a logo, I start with the very loose sketches using my brush pen. But here, I really looked at the letter shapes as I was very intrigued by the way they looked. And I create these letters based on the original image. Based on what I've learned at the type design course, I improved the letters by connecting them to make the letters look more coherent, but I also tightened the spacing, same here, to make the result more coherent. It was mainly in my vectorizing process that all the information I learned at the type design course came in handy. First of all, I'm no longer working in Illustrator. I work in a type design program now, as this makes it so much easier to construct your letters. Let's zoom in on the letter N. Over here, you can see the letter N as I would have created it before I improved my skills. But here, I started looking at the relative weight of letters, so I adjusted the rounder part of the N and made it a bit more thicker in order to get the letter more balanced. I also added a little notch up there to make sure that the upper part didn't get too heavy. And last but not least, I thought back of our classes about brush lettering, and I thought about the way that a brush would create the letters. So I created this letter, which looks a bit heavier to make it look more coherent with the end result, but it also looks more elegant compared to the previous version. This is the way the logo looked before my adjustments. And this is the way it is looking now. I have to say, it's a work in progress. I'm not finished. As you can see, the TTE is still too heavy. I'm still working on it. But if you compare it to the logo I showed you in the beginning of this presentation, you can see that the type design course and, of course, a lot of practice came in handy. Back when I studied graphic design, they told me lettering has no rules. But are there no rules? Shouldn't every lettering artist apply all of the rules of type design to their own work? I don't think so. Lettering, sometimes created in some sort of naive way, can be very powerful on its own. Adding all those rules can be useful when you're stuck and when you feel the limitations of your lettering work. However, the rules that are not there doesn't mean bad lettering. It is a cliche, but it's right. When you know the rules, break them. As Robert Bringhurst would say, by all means, break the rules, break them beautifully, deliberately, and well. I'd like to take a short moment to thank Anne Bessemans and Maarten from the math faculty to help me out, getting me out of my comfort zone. And then, of course, Dan and Veronica from the Old School, New School for teaching me all about type. Thank you.